You are the man who gave them the power to destroy themselves. And the world is not prepared.
Few people laughed, few people cried.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
Most people were silent.
3, 2, 1.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
Oppenheimer is undoubtedly the best film of the year, and all time it's impossible to rank it outside of my top 3, but this isn't a review. There are hundreds of those. This is an attempt to explain why Oppenheimer stands out in today's current cinematic landscape. So rarely does a medium flawlessly combine cinematography and visual storytelling while also trusting its audience to understand those very visual cues. It's a lost art, combining characterization and cinematography in just a few subtle frames, but it's what separates good movies from great ones, and Oppenheimer does it better than most. Immediately, we're introduced to Oppenheimer. Lacking hubris or really any confidence, he's unrecognizable from his later self. But from the beginning, his genius is there. He's shown as perceptive, intelligently curious, and played perfectly by one of Hollywood's best, Cillian Murphy. He's unorthodox, and his imaginative ability outweighs his physical one. He's lacking in his math, lab work, and confidence, but as he looks at the stars, he can hear the music. And that's what makes Oppenheimer different. He can hear the music. His theoretical imagination is unrivaled, but as the movie points out, theory can only take you so far. The movie cuts to the future after Oppenheimer's success, and we meet one Lewis Strauss. The movie starts to drip feed us information on their later conflict, starting with the Einstein conversation. Lewis Strauss, a man self-absorbed in his own reputation, takes Einstein's negligence personally, but it was for something far more important. This slow spoon-feeding of information is vital, because as the viewer we have zero idea where it's going. We came to see Oppenheimer make the bomb, but we get a lot more than that. It's not so much a biopic as most would believe, but rather a horror, a warning of mankind's ultimate and absolute power to destroy one another, the fury of 1,000 suns given to them by a modern Prometheus. Oppenheimer travels to America, dedicated to spreading quantum physics and with it his left-wing extremism. He associates with known communists not for their morals, but for his own. These interactions are later used as evidence to destroy Oppenheimer's reputation, but more than that, these scenes are loaded with characterization. He doesn't agree with every ideology, just ones dedicated to justice. His people are being unjustly massacred, and he won't stand for it. These interactions show Oppenheimer's humanity, something predominantly intertwined with his story, and through his conversations we learn he cares greatly for injustice, an idea that would later be challenged. We also see glimpses of Oppenheimer in what looks to be a trial. We're not really sure why he's here, but as the audience, we can infer it has something to do with his communist ties. We start to speculate why he's here and if Oppenheimer might be a communist, but those thoughts are quickly pushed to the back of our minds as he's invited to the Manhattan Project. What's best described as the Avengers of scientists are assembled for what we know to be the creation of the atomic bomb. Edward Teller, Ernest Lawrence, the Allies are in a race against the Nazis, standing up to their unjust genocide and world domination. Of course, we're rooting for Oppenheimer's success, and at this point, he's sure of himself and his abilities. Over the next 3 years, Oppenheimer would lead the Trinity project, and the development of the atomic bomb seems imminent. But right before we see Oppenheimer's greatest success, we cut to his future. Strauss is arguing with Congress for the exportation of isotopes, but this is right after the success of the atomic bomb, making Oppenheimer the world's most famous scientist. He disagrees with Strauss and subsequently humiliates him, a move he'll never forget. We then cut back to Los Alamos, where the first test of the Trinity project is made. Early on a summer morning, right after a night of heavy storms, the bomb is prepped. Oppenheimer and co shelter themselves, waiting in anticipation of their atomic success. The score intensifies and the countdown starts. Everyone in the world is counting on this bomb, humanity is riding on it, and as the count reaches 1, the bomb drops and the theater goes silent. A blinding light illuminates the desert, and a magnificently horrifying display of destruction follows. The bomb was a success, and for a few short moments, Oppenheimer was the greatest scientist in the world. But that feeling of pride dissipates. Hiroshima and Nagasaki just got sentenced to death, and Oppenheimer is their executioner. His pride turns to horror as he realizes the atrocity he's just committed. Narcissism is its own identity, and in it, Oppenheimer lost his humanity. He just gave the power of 1,000 suns to humans, and like Prometheus, his punishment was coming. Oppenheimer's mass fame comes with his success, and a few days after the bomb, he gives a speech to a cheering crowd. The most monumental moment in his career is being recognized, and he's allowed a speech. But what should be his greatest reward turns to a cacophony of horror. He sees hallucinations of innocent people turn to ash, and those earlier cheers turn to cries. As he sees visions of nuclear warfare destroying the planet, Oppenheimer realizes his mistake. We cut to Strauss a few years after the war, as he meets with the world's most decorated scientists. The recommendation of a new bomb is made, one 1,000 times as powerful as the bomb dropped in Hiroshima, but Oppenheimer disagrees. Those cheering stomps come back, and the table starts to drown in water. Morally, it seems unethical to build such a powerful bomb, one dedicated to the complete annihilation of a city, but Oppenheimer already did that. Isn't it hypocritical to grow a conscience after becoming the father of the atomic bomb? Strauss certainly thinks so, and Nolan lets the audience form their own opinions on Oppenheimer. Rather than take a firm stance on one side or the other, Nolan lets us, the audience, decide. This garners sympathy for Oppenheimer, but at the same time, he fathered one of history's most destructive weapons. Does he really deserve sympathy? The film starts to cut between Strauss and Oppenheimer's interrogation, and that slow drip feeding of information starts to pay off. Strauss reveals he's held a grudge for Oppenheimer ever since he publicly humiliated him. He also reveals the court for Oppenheimer's clearance was sabotaged, and the lawyer questioning him, Roger Robb, was appointed by Strauss himself. As Roger Robb presses Oppenheimer, determined to find out whether he's loyal to the USA, the stomps return. The scene builds and the score rises. Oppenheimer reveals his conflicting morals on the atomic bomb, but Robb is quick to point out that he takes all the success, all the credit of the bomb. Only after its effects are seen does Oppenheimer feel bad, and this is a crucial point of the movie. The decision to drop the atomic bomb came after years of planning. Firebombing runs were made in an attempt to draw out Japanese surrender, and hundreds of thousands died as a result. But evidently enough, their will wasn't broken, at least the leaders. Surrender was seen as the very last option in Japan, something so dishonorable it couldn't even be considered. So the US had two choices: invade Japan with the Russians in a drawn-out, unnecessary series of battles, or use the atomic bomb. I'm not here to decide which choice was right, because honestly, both had horrible consequences. But Oppenheimer allows the viewer to decide. Was the atomic bomb a necessary evil to avoid further catastrophe, or was it necessary? But that's the thing, no one human is qualified to give an answer. The citizens of Japan didn't want to wake up in rubble, but that doesn't mean US and Russian soldiers deserve to die in order to weed out the last of fascism. And that's Oppenheimer's paradox. The moral dilemma and horrible reality of what he did. As a scientist, it's one of humanity's greatest achievements, but as a human, it's Oppenheimer's greatest failure. Because in an attempt to preserve the very humanity the Allies fought for, hundreds of thousands were massacred. But I guess that's just war. We cut one final time to Oppenheimer's meeting with Einstein, where we learn the truth of what they discussed. Rain falls and hits the water, creating a subtle ripple effect, the same effect Oppenheimer's bomb has had. His time has passed just as Einstein's, and with it, people won't remember him as the man who dropped the bomb, just the one who created it. But history will remember its consequences and the horrors that followed, because as far as Oppenheimer's concerned, his crowning achievement isn't his greatest success, but humanity's greatest failure. Thank you for watching.